So many people refer to IVF as a rollercoaster ride because of the extreme emotional highs and lows. Also, I think there are other similarities. The fact that you have to queue up, all of the waiting, the nausea, and the fact that you could go through all of that and then end up exactly where you started. But in truth, life is a roller coaster. Life is full of ups and downs. And sometimes we can learn all of these techniques and just use them as a way to try and block out reality instead of ways to help us accept reality, which is actually a lot more helpful to you. We will always experience ups and downs with life. You're never going to reach a place where everything is rosy 24/7 because that's just not how humans work, how emotions work. You can go through sort of extended periods where you feel really content and really relaxed. But then if something negative happens, or maybe your mood will just shift for no reason, maybe there won't be a trigger of why you suddenly feel lower than you did before. But instead of questioning this and trying to fight it, if you just accept it, then it can be a lot easier to cope with. So if someone wrote down all of their moods throughout a day, it would go something like this. It would go, I'm feeling positive, neutral, negative, 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 neutral, positive, positive, negative, neutral, neutral, positive, negative, 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 positive, neutral, neutral, negative, neutral. We're doing that throughout the entire day, and any person would be the same. People don't spend their days just on an emotional plane, and I doubt very much as if you would want to reach that state, because if you were just flat and didn't experience any of the lows, would you be able to differentiate the neutral from the positives? If there was just one state, one emotion, how could you know if it was good or bad? Because it would just become neutral for you. There would be no contrast between them. So Richard Carlson describes this in his brilliant book, Stop Thinking, Start Living, Discovering Lifelong Happiness. I actually read this book after writing The Thoughts Package, and he discusses very many of the same topics. The fact that our emotions stem from our thoughts, and our thoughts come from us. We create our thinking. It's just whether we choose to react to our thinking have like a knee-jerk reaction, or whether we respond to our thinking and choose to either ignore the thoughts that are not helpful and embrace the ones that are. He has a fantastic quote that is in response to this roller coaster of life. If you don't interfere with the natural rhythm of your moods, they will go up and down all by themselves. Accepting the fact that you are low, but at the same time realizing that your mood will rise on its own, allows the darkness to lift. He goes on to say that as your understanding of thought deepens, and you begin to see yourself as a creator of your own thoughts, and as you see your thoughts as something that cannot harm you, you step back from your own thinking, almost as though you were watching a movie instead of actually being in it. Then, if a frightening, depressing, angry, or jealous thought enters your mind, you have the option to follow that thought and see where it takes you, or you can simply dismiss the thought and bring your attention back to whatever you were doing. So this fascinates me, this whole subject, that what Carlson and so many other writers are teaching us is that we can be happy without having to change anything in our lives apart from our relationship with our own thinking. Just really let that sink in. You don't need to change anything to be happy, to be content, to be peaceful, apart from the relationship with your own thoughts. This this just changes everything that we've been sort of fed, I suppose, in our culture. And I don't want to sort of go off on one and go, oh, evil culture. But, we don't need to be in that amazing relationship. We don't need to have this amazing job. We don't need to have this massive house. We don't need the car. We don't need the holidays. We don't need any of these things. Yes, we may want them, and that's brilliant if that's what we want to work towards, and why not? They can enhance our life. But you don't need to reach any place to be happy. You can be happy right here and now. It is just learning how to use your thinking, how to go with it. So if you have negative thoughts, instead of fighting them and trying to change them, instead of like commiserating and go, oh my God, this is awful, just choose to go, oh, I'm having low thoughts right now. I'm experiencing low thinking. And as soon as you do that, you just separate yourself and go, oh, okay, it's just my thinking, I'm just a bit low at the moment. And it will lift, and just your life goes like this. And, and all of us forget, I was speaking about this with my mindfulness coach, who I still see every few months. And I said, I think I just forget. I know all of this stuff, and I'll still have times when I feel really low, and then I remember that it's just my thinking. And she goes, the trick there is that you're thinking. You're believing you're thinking instead of just allowing your thinking mind to be doing whatever it's doing. And you can be sat over here just watching it going, it's all over the place today. Like, you're having a real roller coaster of a time right now. You can just separate yourself from that. And that isn't you. That is just your mind. A lot of people call it the monkey mind, that it's just jumping all over the place. We don't need to be following it. We can just separate ourselves from that. So I'm going to share a lovely quote from Richard Carlson now, which really talks about this. Imagine for a moment a 5-year-old child who tells you all about the bad man who lives behind the books in his bookcase. Would you have him explain in great detail over and over again what the bad man looks like, what kind of things he does, and why he's so scary? Would you ask the child these questions every week for years and years? Of course not. The reason you wouldn't is because you would be making the child's imagination seem real to him. You would be encouraging him to be frightened of his own thoughts. It would be far more useful to the child if you were to help him see there is no need to fear his own thoughts. And this just shows that we can get so scared by our own thinking, especially if you've read a lot of books that say that, every thought that we're sending out there is having an immediate impact. We'll be discussing more about setting intentions next week, but I think it's really getting to this point that it's not that you think something and something immediately happens. It's kind of, our thinking is just this tiny top level of who we are. Our thinking is only 5% of our mind. Our conscious thinking is only 5%. 95% is our unconscious beliefs and thinking. So we'll be going more into setting intentions next week, but it's really just getting to this point of not being scared by your thinking. It is just thinking, and you have the choice of how you respond to that thinking. You can choose to be scared by it, or you can choose to just go, this is just low thinking at the moment. Carlson calls this, our analytical mind or our healthy functioning mind. So it actually splits the mind into like these two compartments and discusses how we think in different ways, and how one is healthy for us and one is unhealthy. I would really, really recommend that book.